Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call the March 12th, 2026 meeting of the Delaware County Redevelopment Commission to order. If you could please stand and join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kiesling.
Here.
Commissioner Brand.
Here.
Commissioner Henry.
Here.
Mr. Wiggerly.
Yes.
Ms. Green.
Here. This time I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the February 12th meeting.
One minor correction under item 10, Muncie Power Products, that's Rex Millspall, Millspaugh. Other than that, I would make a motion to approve. Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kiesling.
Yes.
Commissioner Brand.
Yes.
Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Mr. Wiggerly.
Yes.
Ms. Green.
Yes. I'm going to make a minor adjustment in the agenda. We're going to switch number 5 and number 6. So L&J Manufacturing will move up before Matt Eckerly's Baker Tilly report because of time constraints. So moving on, ECIRPD Merchant McIntyre contract. Morning.
Morning, Commission. Bill Wolders, ECI Regional Planning District. Last meeting, we had a conversation over our Washington staff, Merchant McIntyre. You asked me to retrieve a contract. I did, same as it has been the last 4 or 5 years, $80,000. Currently, just as an update, just to recap, Department of Transportation, we have grants that are submitted, waiting answer, $780,000 there for the culvert. The best USDA of $100,000. We are finishing up and getting ready to submit the $13 million disaster relief for Grant County, Marion Airport. And then we are finishing up on the SS4A, which we were awarded $500,000. That report will be done at the end of this month, and we will move towards procurement for development construction of those projects that were identified in that report. Any questions? And you've seen the report from the last Washington fly-in, how detailed it was there. Those have already paid some fruition. We're getting letters to the senators and the representatives for the earmarks, certain projects. Those have all went out to small communities, other towns, Jay County, all of them. We've got those that are looking at them involved.
Any questions?
Nope.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Kiesling.
Yes.
Commissioner Brand.
Yes.
Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Mr. Wiggerly.
Yes.
Ms. Green.
Yes.
Can we clarify real quick which funds these are going to come from? Do we know where they came from last year? I don't.
They came from
Usually,
Yeah.
Commissioner, usually those were divided up amongst the TIF districts because it represents all of it for economic development. Is how we have done it in the past.
Okay.
We can check and see how many it was last year, but we divided, it was either 3 or 5, I think.
I believe it was 5.
I think Daleville should be considered.
Did you roll call on that? Okay, thank you. All right. Moving on, L&J Manufacturing Solutions Economic Development Agreement. Danielle.
So on this, we've got Justin here and his counsel, David Carnes. They presented us with some modifications to the Economic Development Agreement. David and I have, or Mr. Carnes, sorry, we've met once on this. I have some comments and I put together just kind of a little comparison of some of the major items that I wanted the board to take a look at. I wasn't able to get that to you guys until yesterday. So I just need a little guidance on what the board wants me to be able to go back and negotiate with Mr. Carnes. So if you guys could take a look at that spreadsheet, digest it, and then maybe individually send me some thoughts on how you would like me to proceed. I think David and I can work through and get that finalized. I just want want to make sure I point out the differences and taking back the thoughts of the board on what I'm suggesting. I think a couple of those were maybe non-negotiable from the way the other board meetings have gone, but just want a little bit of guidance, so if you guys can take a look at those and then know your thoughts. And they're here if you have any questions.
So one major thing that sticks out to me is the complete removal of the jobs from the language. Can you explain? I mean, that's like the primary reason I approved it.
The jobs weren't completely removed. It was presented as though they were new jobs, and they are not going to be new jobs. Is
So
that-
it'll be 33 people total when we're done.
How many people do you have currently?
Right now, we have 2 in the building and then 4 contractors. So, but it'll be 33 Delaware County employees.
Can we explain then why the language says not new?
I would apologize. That was probably just my lawyering of the project. David Carnes with Delaware in April. I didn't want to get him stuck in a trick bag with definition on what an employee was or wasn't. I wanted to make sure that it was clear that if he had 22 employees, that it would be sufficient. But after talking with him more about that and where he's going to be on employees, I don't think that's going to be a problem. As long as it's 22 total new employees and not 33 new employees, then I don't think there's going to be any issue at all with that once he gets 3 presses up and running.
Yeah,
That, I'm glad you brought that up, because that language was also removed, the
I-
3 presses.
I'm gonna go on record just saying I'm not happy with any of the revisions. So, for myself, that's my opinion.
Commission, just to introduce myself, I'm David Carnes with Dennis Winger and April. When we looked at this, I got an already revised copy and I tried to clean it up. I believe that the main thing that really kind of was concerning to Justin with regard to the first draft that came out was the default provision. If there was some consideration of default, then it was an immediate 30-day repayment of the entire amount that was given to him on the project. And he was looking for more time on that, as well as there was a word in the document that referred to forfeiture, which we interpreted to be total forfeiture of the land and building and everything that was involved in that process. So he didn't want to put his whole building at risk and everything that he's got to tie into that default provision. So if we can work with Danielle to kind of tailor that default provision and make sure that that is something that if there is considered to be an issue in the future while he's working here, that we would have more time to cure that and to make sure that that was remedied before there was some immediate kind of removal of him from the building and a forfeiture and request for demanded payment. I think that that would be his main concern, correct, Justin? Correct.
I think working through the time for payment is absolutely about, but there is a stair step depending on which year there would be a default that was proposed. And I don't think the board was in favor of that, so I do need to know how the board feels about looking at it based on which year. Like if he were to move or close his business or default in some way, is it a complete clawback versus stair stepping it? And I think they take it back through 29. So we had a 5-year clawback provision. Their proposal goes to 29.
Personally, I know I'm not interested in altering the clawback language at all. I'm not interested in removing the 3 presses and expansion completed by 2027, and I'm not interested in changing the jobs.
I don't believe the commission's interested in taking acquisition of the property prior to this agreement. So I think clarification of that language is in order, maybe some time to cure language, but the jobs and the stair stepping and things like that, I mean, that was the foundation for why I was interested in supporting.
I think Mr. Hart and I can work through
Yes.
and get another proposal to you guys here pretty quick.
That would be the goal. So we would like to move forward and we can work around that. If the board finds that it needs to be a total clawback, if there's a default, that's fine, as long as we have some time so that we can deal with any potential default and just know what the worst case scenario is if we don't get that money paid back in short order. So,
Is the bigger hangup the 30-day then? Default provision?
Right.
Not the default provision itself.
Correct.
It's
Yes.
the 30-day, which
And I think that's reasonable.
That's-
I mean,
that's
this
a
is
reasonable-
larger amount of money than is usually pledged, so I don't think that's anything I would be concerned with. That's all I really needed, is just a little bit of guidance. I just needed a little guidance, so that's all I really wanted, was to get an update from you guys and give them an opportunity to be here, and then we'll work on finalizing this in the next couple weeks.
Motion to table.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of tabling, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
All right, moving on. Baker Tilly 2026 Annual TIP Report. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Pleasure to be with you today. My name is Matt Eckerly. I'm a principal with Baker Tilly. We serve as the financial advisor to the Redevelopment Commission, have for many years now, and joined by my associate, Julia Dankman. And this morning, I'm here to present the annual TIF report, which we have prepared for the Redevelopment Commission. As many of you know, each year we prepare what I like to call a snapshot based on most current information that's a look forward document for the various TIF allocation areas here in Delaware County, using Pay 2026 assessed values and tax rates as provided by the state and the county auditor's office, as well as other information. This is a look forward that basically paints the picture of your revenue potential in the various allocation areas and your ability to meet your various debt obligations. We don't include your pay-as-you-go obligations in here, though we're happy to, modify as needed to reflect those, but this really focuses on your debt. And it can be looked at in conjunction with another report that we're currently preparing for the Redevelopment Commission, which is your annual Gateway TIF Management Report, which is required by state law to be uploaded into Gateway and presented to the County Council by April 15th. That's a look back report that summarizes the activities of the prior calendar year. And as we were driving up today, Julia and I were talking about how she's in the middle of all of that right now. And so we'll have that for you here shortly. I want to level set a couple of things before I really dive into the materials. One, feel free to interrupt me with questions as I'm going through. I think it'd be best to address them in the moment. And then two, as I think everyone is well aware, the General Assembly in the 2025 legislative session, and to a lesser extent in 2026, passed a lot of laws that impact the funding of local government. And as it pertains to your TIF allocation areas in particular, wanted to point out that the new property tax deduction, the assessment deduction regimes for homestead properties and 2% properties do affect several of your TIF areas. And we'll note that as I walk through this presentation. Those impacts are accounted for in this analysis. It's a lot easier for us to do it for the TIF areas than to do it for the county as a whole, because it's a few hundred parcels instead of 20,000 parcels. So that is reflected in this analysis. And then also in the 2026 legislative session, they did tweak the local income tax changes that were made in Senate Enrolled Act 1 last year. If you're bored at night, you can read House Enrolled Act 1210 from this year, which is the DLGF bill. That contains the lit changes, which basically reformulates some of the countywide lit elements, but it also moves back the change by 1 year. And that does impact your allocation areas that have homestead properties, because Delaware County does have a local income tax for property tax relief that allocates that property tax relief to homesteads. And so that does have a direct impact on the Morrison Road and Daleville allocation areas, because those were established prior to 1995, so they can actually capture homestead residential property. So it does impact those. So it was one of those where Julia was basically done with the report and then had to go back and change Morrison Road and Daleville and re-review everything once the General Assembly passed that law on February 27th. So those are incorporated here. And the other element related to TIF that I wanted to bring up that is also in House Bill 1210 is there is a requirement this year, and this has always been a requirement, well, not always, for over a decade, it's been a requirement that the Redevelopment Commission annually make a determination prior to June 15th of its intent to capture or pass through eligible incremental assessed value for the upcoming calendar year. So that's always been in place. The Delaware County Redevelopment Commission has adhered to that. You actually, and I'll be talking about this in a minute, you actually pass through the eligible residential assessed value from Morrison Road, and you pass through all of the incremental assessed value for the BioVision Ag Park. Well, this provision in House Bill 1210 actually puts a little more teeth to that requirement, that if you do not make that determination and it doesn't get uploaded into Gateway prior to June 15th, that there is an automatic pass-through of incremental assessed value for the next calendar year. Now, there's an appeal provision if that impacts your ability to pay debt, but it's something it's putting more teeth to the requirement. I don't have any concerns about Delaware County meeting the requirement because you guys have been good at that in the past, but it's something I just wanted to note because it does affect this body.
Matt, is
Yes.
there a requirement or a limit on how long you can hold increment?
How do you mean in terms of like just retaining the funds?
Yeah.
No, not to my knowledge. I have not seen that be the case. I
Okay.
haven't seen the State Board of Accounts release any provisions on that front. I know there's been talk of that because some communities, I've heard legislators say, hold on to money too long, but I haven't seen any, hey, this has to be spent by X date.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and dive in. And what we're going to do, and for those of you in the audience, if you'd like a copy of the presentation, there's still some copies up front. And we're always happy to follow up providing electronic versions. But what we're going to do is we're going to start with the Morrison Road allocation area. And this is, as I referenced, it's one of your two what we call legacy allocation areas. It expires in 2040 following the final maturity of the 2021 bonds. A portion of that allocation area has been annexed into Muncie, but the city of Muncie's tax rate is not captured because that's how state law operates. And I will note that for the purposes of monitoring this allocation area, that does complicate things because of how the state reports everything in various documents that we use to monitor settlement. So this is one of the more complicated area. Actually, it's the most complicated area that Delaware County has. It always takes us a little more time to work through it, and the math is just a little more tricky. So it was expanded in part in 2018 to create a second allocation area, which we'll talk about in a moment. You have two outstanding TIF obligations. You have the redevelopment district refunding bonds of 2021, which refinanced the 2015 bonds. And then you have the redevelopment district tax increment revenue bond series 2021, which were issued to fund various projects out there. I do want to note that the term of this, the statutory term of this allocation area is tied to the outstanding obligations. So if this body were to decide in 2033, hey, we just want to pay off these bonds using cash, you've collected enough cash, it's certainly within your powers, but then that allocation area will terminate prior to the 2040 termination date. So wanted to make you aware of that just for your own kind of long-term planning purposes. Moving on to the next page, in pay 2025, and I apologize, there's a typo on the estimate. The estimated amount was $1,398,470, not the $1,041,000 that's here. That was going back to some of the math. And you might recall that we did do a settlement analysis earlier this year to look at this area, and we had come up with an estimate of 1.8 million. It's actually the 1.3, and that goes back to the county and the city interplay of tax rates, and some of the reports that we got from the county after we had finalized that settlement analysis gave us a better picture as to the estimates. So apologize for that, but you actually collected last year 1,324,000. So you're very close to what 100% collections would be. In 2026, we are estimating that it will grow slightly to $1.5 million, just a little north of that. You've got about $675,000 in debt service this year. So that leaves you with about $850,000 of incremental revenue that you can spend on other obligations. or pay-as-you-go projects. We did want to highlight in pay 2025 that you are passing through approximately $11.8 million of eligible assessed value that's attributed to those homesteads that you could capture. And so that means that this redevelopment commission elected to do that instead of collecting an additional $357,000 of tax increment. And on the next page, we actually summarize what the impact of that is on the overlapping taxing units and really the tax rates. As we've talked about before in Indiana, due to levy controls, growth in assessed value does not necessarily mean new money outside of TIF allocation areas. What it really does is it puts downward pressure on tax rates. So the best way to think of that $357,000 is not that that was $357,000 of additional revenue that the overlapping taxing units got. Really, that's $357,000 less that other taxpayers had to pay in those taxing districts. So you're spreading that levy out over a wider tax base. That did for a couple of the taxing units. Hamilton Township has a cumulative fire fund. Muncie Sanitary has a cumulative building fund. Those both exist outside of the maximum levy limitations. So growth in assessed value actually does generate new dollars. So those funds would have seen, the Hamilton Township would have seen about $20,000 less in revenues for their cum fire fund, and the sanitary district would have seen about $7,000 less. Does that make sense to everyone? And then the next page, it's a graphic that illustrates the estimated revenues versus those two debt obligations. This is a healthy allocation area. I do want to note that the only pledge of revenues to those two debt obligations is TIF generated in Morrison Road. So, if something catastrophic happened and those revenues went down by over $800,000 and you didn't have enough TIF to fill the gap, the county is under no obligation to provide any other county funds to meet the difference. That was a risk that those bond purchasers assumed when they purchased the bonds back in 2021. Moving on, Morrison 2, this was established in 2018 as an offshoot of the original Morrison Road area. There's no debt obligations, no tax increment revenues. There hasn't been any growth out there. And one thing I do want to note for this allocation area, and you'll see this note on a few of these slides, based on the current assessed value information that we have from the auditor's office, and as we account for the phasing in of the new deduction regimes under Senate Rolled Act 1, this is actually going to go negative in terms of the base assessed value is going to be greater than the net assessed value. And what that means is you're going to have, I can't think of better phrasing than this, but kind of an assessed value hole that you would have to dig out of with new development before you can generate $1 of tax increment revenues. So that's something that you see here, and you're going to see that in a few other allocation areas that you have as well, that these legislative changes have very real revenue impacts on your allocation areas. Now for here, you're not losing any revenues because you haven't been generating anything, but if new development does occur, it's going to have to offset those assessed value losses on a go forward. Moving on to NEBO 1, and this is also colloquially called the NEBO Land Partners allocation area. It's got a couple car dealerships located within it. It was established in 2002, but then modified in 2012, and then there's NEBO 3 established in 2018. You have the Economic Development Revenue Bond Series 2012, about $1.3 million outstanding on those, and they mature in 2034. Those are held by NEBO Land Partners. It was set up as an incentive for NEBO Land Partners to develop that area. And similar to the Morrison Road, the only county revenue obligation to these bonds is the TIF generated in this allocation area. One modification to that is, in this circumstance, if the TIF falls short, then NEBO Land Partners is obligated to make payments on a note to make the full payments, but kind of ends up being a circular transaction because they pay on that note and then it comes back to them as the bondholder. But again, no county revenues are exposed beyond the TIF revenues. In 2025, we estimated about 174,000 or just under $175,000 in revenues. You actually collected 214,000, and that's because there were some delinquent 2024 bills that were paid after the due dates in 24, and they got distributed in 2025. This year, we're estimating that you're going to collect about $243,000 versus $205,000 in debt service due. So you're actually projected to come out plus $38,000 this year. Now, one thing I want to note with this allocation area, and this is something that we saw throughout Delaware County, and it's distilled well here, that last year we estimated about $175,000. This year, we're estimating about $243,000. The tax rates didn't change a heck of a lot. It's due to the assessed value going up in that allocation area, but there wasn't really new development out there. What we saw consistently as we were working on the TIF-based neutralizations last summer was that there was a lot of just trending and reassessment growth in assessed value in your allocation areas. So that's something I wanted to point out. We've asked the assessor's office for data on any outstanding appeals. We haven't received it as of yet, just to see what the potential exposure to appeals might be here in Delaware County. But it's not something unique to Delaware County. We did see large movements in other counties around the state, but it's something that we really noticed as we were evaluating your TIF allocation areas, that compared to prior years, the reassessment and trending growth was a lot more than what we had seen in the past. But I do know that the state had reworked some of the cost tables for assessments, so a lot of that can be ascribed to that. But I wanted to point it out because you'll see here, historically, you hadn't been generating enough revenues to pay the full bond amount, but this year we're estimating you will because of those assessed value changes. Then the next slide is the graphic that just illustrates that revenue coverage. Now, you have obligated all of the TIF to the repayment of these bonds. So what that means is if this trend holds, you could pay these bonds off earlier than that final maturity after 2033.
If we pay those off early, though, does that expire
Not this allocation
not this
area.
one?
Only the legacy TIF areas, so Daleville and
Before
Morrison
95.
Road, have the limitation of the statutory term being tied to those outstanding obligations. So NEBO number 2 was a part of that original larger NEBO allocation area that was split in 2012. It has no outstanding debt obligations. Last year, we estimated you would collect about $150,000. You collected $144,000. This year, and this is the same dynamic I mentioned for NEBO 1, we're estimating that you're going to collect about $263,000. And I know that out in that allocation area, historically, you've used a lot of that money for road and bridge projects. So you'll have more of that this year. Moving on to NEBO number 3. This was established in 2018. It was established at the same time as the Morrison 2 area. It has not had any growth yet. And similar to the Morrison 2 area, based on current information and current law, we're estimating that it's going to go to negative increment starting next year. Now, I'll add too, that doesn't mean that the Redevelopment Commission owes money back to the overlapping taxing units. It just means you have that hole that you're going to have to dig out of if you want to capture TIF. Moving on to the next two, and this is Park Save-A-Lot and Park 1. Those were established back in 2000 and subsequently modified several times until they reached their current form. The TIF generated in these two allocation areas is actually pledged to the Tax Increment Revenue Bond Series 2023, and we'll talk a little bit more about those in a few minutes. Last year, we estimated $425,000 of collections. You actually received about $467,000, and that's due to some 2024 delinquencies that were caught up in 2025. This year, we're estimating that you're going to collect about $479,000. Moving on to Park Tucson and New Tucson. Those are out in that Park 1 industrial park as well, and then they were split out into their own allocation areas in 2010. Their term is tied to the issuance of those 2010 bonds, so those expire in 2035. well, one of them expires in 2035, the other one expires in 2030. You do have outstanding bonds in this allocation area, the 2014 Economic Development Revenue Bonds that were issued to incentivize the MERSIX project out there. You have about $2.2 million outstanding. Those are similar to the NEBO Land Partners bonds. If your TIF revenues fall short, and historically they have, the Murray family is personally obligated to make payments to cover those gaps. So those have been operating as they should. Each year when we work with the auditor's office on evaluating the various debt payments, we always see that Old National is also reaching out to the Murrays and arranging those payments so that they're made whole. And those mature in 2034, and they're callable at any time. So those could be prepaid, but that doesn't have an effect on the final term of the allocation area. In 2025, we estimated about $327,000, and actual distributions were right on top of that. This year, we're estimating it's going to go up a little bit to $355,000. That's against $343,000 in debt service due this year, so that does generate a little bit of surplus. That'll go into the bond fund and then be used to make future bond payments. And then we have the graphic illustrating that on the next slide.
So Matt,
Yes.
on that particular one, you're projecting in 2026 that the Murray family will not have to make up any difference,
Yes,
correct?
based on the information we have right now, that this will be the first year they haven't had to cover that difference.
Okay.
And because we're estimating a little bit of coverage, if things were to change next year and it dipped down a little bit, there's going to be money banked that could offset any obligation that they would have.
Thank you.
Moving on to the Park Bravini and New Bravini allocation areas, again, out in that Park 1 industrial park, and they were created in 2010. The New Bravini allocation area expires in 2037 because it was tied to the issuance of the 2012 bonds. As we all know, Bravini Wind ceased operations in 2016. In 2023, that allocation area was amended to add a parcel and to designate Muncie Power Products and SRM Concrete as designated taxpayers, so you can actually capture personal property assessed value from those. This is your well, actually, MERSIX, this applies to as well. One thing I wanted to point out, and last year when we presented this was before Senate Enrolled Act 1 became law, because you have personal property taxpayers in these allocation areas, those taxpayers are still subject to the 30% depreciation floor. So that means that their minimum tax basis, their minimum assessed value of their depreciable personal property can't go below 30% of their reported acquisition costs. If they were located outside of allocation areas that were established before January 1 of 2025, they are not subject to that floor. So that it's kind of a quirk in the law, and it's really meant to protect the payment of debt. But that's going to apply to these taxpayers that are located out in any of your allocation areas. But these in particular are designated, so you're capturing their personal property, and it's pledged to the repayment of these bonds.
Matt, also not only the 30%, but they don't have the privilege of the $80,000 floor anymore.
I do believe that that taxpayers in TIF allocation areas can still claim the exemption for up to $2 million.
Up to $2 million.
Yeah, and it was $80,000, and then they started for filings 1/1 of 26. If you have depreciable personal property valued at, or with acquisition costs, total acquisition costs of $2 million or less, you would be exempt from personal property assessment taxation. And I believe that's still, it's my understanding that that still applies even if they're in a TIF allocation area.
Okay, but not to be less than 30% of their original acquisition costs.
Yeah, for everyone who's got equipment of more than $2 million.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
For projects that have phased in investment for personal property.
If they're outside of the allocation area?
If they're in a TIF district,
Oh.
there's a bond obligation,
Yep.
but the incentive was based on a phased in investment in personal property.
As long as it is still located in that allocation area that was established before January 1 of 2025, they're still going to be subject to that 30% floor for as long as the allocation area is in existence.
but the 80,000 to 2 million change.
The 80,000 to 2 million change, that is so because that's independent of the allocation area. That would just mean that, you know, they could still, if it's required, this gets a little legal where I would defer to John and Daniel. You know, my idea would be work with them so they continue to be assessed. They kind of waive that exemption as long as that debt was outstanding. And then when the debt was outstanding, they could claim the exemption. But if they have taxpayer agreements in place or something like that, you could be insulated. There's ways to get through that. I'm not aware of that impacting any of your allocation areas or debt issues as it stands now. That's a good question. So the New Brevini and the Park Brevini allocation area, together with Park 1, Park Save-A-Lot, and the I-69 allocation area, all of their tax increment is pledged to the Redevelopment District Tax Increment Revenue Bonds Series 2023 that were issued to, among other things, I know there'd always been talk of the stoplight at the entrance off of 332. You've got about $1.9 million outstanding, and those mature in 2038, and they're subject to optional redemption beginning in 2028. I know one of the things that was negotiated in that transaction was a more aggressive call feature, which means that you can prepay the bonds early. Typically, those call features are in the 8 to 10 year range, and one of the things that was important to the Redevelopment Commission at that time was to negotiate a shorter call period. So you can't prepay those for 5 years, but then beginning in 2028, you could prepay those or refinance them if you saw fit. In 2025, out in the Brevini allocation area, we estimated about $144,000 of revenues collected right on top of that. We're estimating about $171,000 this year. Debt service due in 2026 is $392,000. We're estimating among all of the pledged allocation areas that you'll collect about $488,000. So you will have a little over $90,000 for other projects as you see fit. And then next up is the I-69 allocation area. As I just mentioned, this is pledged to the Park 1 bonds as well. It was established in 2038. This one you are collecting, or last year you collected about $10,900, which is right on top of estimates. We're estimating that that's going to go down to $8,700 this year, and that's due to the new deductions in Senate Enrolled Act 1. And we're actually estimating that starting next year, you're not going to be collecting revenue in this allocation area anymore because of those deductions. And it's ag land in that allocation area, and ag land benefits from those new deductions. Moving on to Magna. So Magna was established in 2004, and that it actually expires in 2034. So it's out there for another less than 10 years. No bonds outstanding. The bonds that have been issued for that allocation area were paid off long ago. In 2025, we estimated about $1,144,000 revenues collected right on top of that, estimating that that ticks up slightly this year. I'll take this as a moment to call out that this allocation area out in the larger Industria Center, Industria Park, combined with Midwest Metals, North Industria, Industria Center, those don't have any debt obligations. They've got pretty healthy revenues. So if you're looking for opportunities to leverage any of your TIF areas into debt issuance to fund priority projects, if you need money now for priority projects in a geography, and you don't want to wait for those on a pay-as-you-go basis, that's going to be the area of opportunity for the Redevelopment Commission and the county. Your other healthy TIF areas are all largely obligated to other debt issuances. This one has enough free where you could actually get some bang for your buck. So if that's something that you've been discussing, this would be the area where you have that opportunity. Then moving on to the next one out there is the Industria Center allocation area. There's no outstanding debt, as I just mentioned. We estimated last year you collect just under $410,000. You actually collected $477,000, and that's because there were some delinquencies from 2024 that were caught up in 2025. This year, we're estimating that it's going to hold about constant. Moving on to the next one is Midwest Metals, again out there. You did have bonds outstanding that were issued in 2012, but the Redevelopment Commission, because this allocation area was generating more than enough funds, the decision was made to pay off that obligation. You did that a couple years ago, and so that freed up this money to be used for other priorities. Last year, we estimated about $409,000. You collected right on top of it. We're estimating that that goes up to $465,000 this year. Next, we have PRL, which is Progress Rail. That was established in 2010. You do have bonds outstanding for that one. It's the 2015 bonds. You've got about $850,000 outstanding. Those are payable from PRL TIF and ABB Creed revenues. The TIF has long been more than enough to make those bond payments. These have complicated redemption structure. I know we've looked in the past at prepaying them. There's not a financial benefit to prepaying them because of some of the prepayment penalties that Star Financial put on these bonds. So, you know, you've had enough money to be making those payments and still be able to deploy some of those funds elsewhere. I know we recently, there were some questions about the Creed out there. That's outstanding for a few more years. One of the things on the Creed, I mentioned this, I think every year, if the auditor's office develops, or any of you develop a reliable contact with the Department of Revenue, it would be great to plug in with them. For a long time, we've had questions and been asked questions about what's being generated in this in this Creed, you know, kind of vetting it. We just haven't had any luck getting reliable information from the state. And I think part of it is there's confidentiality for some of it. And it'd just be nice to get a little more visibility into it and get some confirmation from Department of Revenue of some of our assumptions. So I'll just mention that if any of you have any friends at DOR, love to connect with them so we could get you just more clarity on some of those questions that come up from time to time related to this Creed.
Hey, Matt, question
Yes.
on the creeds. When those areas expire and there's a balance, what happens to that money?
It's my understanding that, similar to TIF, that money is still subject as if the Creed were still in existence. So it's subject to the same limitations on being able to spend it, same procedures. And it's just subject to that until you spend the last penny.
Thank you.
I referenced the bonds a moment ago and the revenues out there. So last year, we estimated $625,000. You collected right on top of that. This year, we're actually estimating that it went down to $522,000, and that's a lot to some equipment depreciation. Debt service due this year is $237,000. We're estimating that you're more than able to meet that. The Creed revenues, again, we're estimating to be $1 million, which is the maximum annual potential, and you've been collecting that consistently, save for there are a couple of years where the state didn't make the distributions and the county had to chase that down with the state, and they got paid in arrears. And then the next slide is the graphic illustrating that. Next, we have the North Industrial Center allocation area that was established in 2021 at the same time as the Fuson Shell Building and Fountain Square allocation areas. That has no outstanding debt obligations. In 2025, we estimated $89,000. You collected $92,000. There are a little bit of delinquencies out there. In 2026, we're estimating that it's going to go up to $104,000. Another allocation area out in that general geography is the State Road 67 allocation area that was established in 2023. This does not have any debt obligations. It has not had any growth yet, so you have not captured any revenues. But similar to some of the other areas I've cited, this is all ag land, and it's starting to see those deductions come into play. So we're estimating that next year it's actually going to start going negative. Next, we have the Fuson Shell Building allocation area, which was established in 2021. This is the Shell Building on Fuson Road, and this was originally established to support the Living Greens Farms project. You did issue bonds with a maximum authorized issuance amount of $4 million. There's about $135,000 actually drawn on those bonds, and that has since been fully repaid. And I know there's been conversations with the new building owner that that bond is still technically outstanding, though you don't owe any payments on it right now. But the new building owner may be making some improvements that qualify, and he might be coming to you asking for authorizations of future draws. What would happen in that circumstance is you come here, make the case, he's got to fill out some paperwork. If you authorize it, he would actually transfer the money to Old National to purchase the bonds and then submit a request to be reimbursed for those eligible expenses. And then that creates an obligation that you would then be obligated to repay from TIF revenues. And the pledge of TIF revenues to these bonds is 70% of the annual revenues. But right now, there's no technical obligation, so you're just banking everything that you collect and you can spend as you see fit. Last year, we estimated $182,000. You collected $191,000. This year, we're estimating that it goes up to $235,000. There was a significant increase in the valuation of that building from January 1 of 24 to January 1 of 25.
They are doing quite a bit of work out there.
That's what
right
I've heard.
now.
And when I've talked with him, he's said, hey, I'm spending money out here. So hopefully that goes up even more.
Yeah, I believe it will.
Next up, we have the Fountain Square allocation area, which was established in 2021, and this is the CanPack allocation area. Last year, you collected right on top of what our estimates were, and this year we're estimating that it goes up to $3.9 million as they've continued to invest out there. There's more equipment. The value of the building has increased. Moving on to the next page, you do have 2 bond obligations related to that, and they have similar structures to what I just described for the Living Greens project, where they were issued as draw bonds, and CanPack would come and say, hey, you know, we've spent this much in qualifying dollars on our projects. Can we draw on these bonds to create the obligation? For the 2021 bond, the A bonds, those were issued for the base project. You have about $21.4 million outstanding of the $22.9 million that have been drawn. You do have capacity for additional draws if they come and make the case and you determine they've met the criteria of the legal documents. You do have capacity to do that, but that would be a decision that the Redevelopment Commission would take to authorize that. There had been what I would call some administrative issues with the capture of the tax increment revenue historically. Those have all been reconciled. And I will say that, you know, working with the members of the Redevelopment Commission, with Daniel on that, with Gina and Tracy and the Ice Miller team, and then the team at the auditor's office, you know, sometimes some of those things happen, but we were able to get to the right spot with that, and we feel like we're in a good spot going forward. Got some new procedures in place to try to avoid that on a go-forward basis as well. But yeah, we've vetted all of this with Old National, and we reached out to CanPack to make sure that they were all squared, and we haven't heard anything saying that they felt otherwise. So take no response on that question to mean that they agree. So I'm sure we'll be having future conversations on this with some of the things, but these are payable solely from a pledge of 75% of the tax increment collected in this allocation area. The other 25% comes to this body to utilize as they see fit. Now, the 2021 B bonds were authorized at the same time, and those were meant to incentivize an additional phase. There was an expectation that around this time, they would be putting in a significant additional investment to expand the capacity of that plant. As of this date, that has not happened. So we are assuming that, you know, it's just held as it is. So all that was drawn on that was $39,713. And so you're making interest payments on that as it stands right now. And those all mature in the A bonds mature in 2041, the B bonds mature in 2042. And as you can see, these have a unique structure in the graphic on the next page. While they have a final maturity of 2041, 2042, the way it's set up is we call it a bullet. Everything is due, the entire principal amount is due at final maturity. But what happens is, as the TIF is collected, you allocate the 75% of pledged TIF revenues, it gets sent to Old National Bank, and then you make the interest payment first, and then whatever is left over is used to redeem the principal on the Series A bonds until they're fully repaid. So we're estimating that based on current revenue streams right now, you'll actually repay them 5 years early. Moving on to the Daleville redevelopment area, your second legacy area that I mentioned. It was established in 1994, and its expiration date is tied to the 2015 bonds. It was expanded in 2017, and so the expansion area is tied to the BOT financing. So the redevelopment district tax increment revenue bonds of 2015, those have about $2.6 million outstanding. They're payable from the Daleville TIF. Similar to the PRL bonds, you don't really have a financial incentive to pay those off early because of the redemption penalty, the prepayment penalties. Plus, once you pay off those 2015 bonds, that actually expires the allocation area. So that's something to keep in mind. You also partnered with the town of Daleville on their town hall project several years ago for the BOT financing. You've got about $3.7 million outstanding on that obligation, and those mature in 2040 as well. Those can be prepaid at any time. So that's something to monitor as this area kind of continues to progress. And then you also have a $112,000 annual obligation to the Delaware County Regional Wastewater District that subsidizes rates out in that area. And that exists through 2032. I remember when I first started working in Delaware County, it seemed like 2032 is so far away. Now it's just 6 years from now. My work often reminds me that I'm getting old. So in 2025, we estimated that you would collect about $853,000 of tax increment. Actual collections were $822,000. You had some delinquencies out there, so hopefully those get caught up this year. In 2026, we're actually estimating it goes out to $974,000. I swear every time I'm driving through that area, there's more development, and that's reflected in the revenues that you're seeing out there. So your combined obligations for this year, $627,000. So we're estimating you'll have about $347,000 to the good to deploy on other projects out in that area. Now, while this one does have a substantial amount of residential development within it, the deductions we're showing are kind of being offset by the growth that you've seen in the commercial space. So you'll see, if you're looking on slide 57, the graphic, you'll see a slight shade down, but it's not enough to jeopardize your ability to meet the debt obligations as it stands now. Moving on, and we're getting near the end, we've got the Daleville 2 allocation area that was, again, established out in that general direction of Daleville. It was established in 2020. No bonds have been issued, so its clock has not started ticking yet. Last year, we estimated you collect about $88,000. You collected just above that. This year, we're estimating that goes down to $58,000. This one was hit by SEA 1 deductions. You have the Forza allocation area in Daleville covered on the next page. That was established in 2020, and the projects that had been proposed out there never materialized, so there hasn't been any growth. You're not collecting any revenues, and we're estimating that next year it's actually going to go negative as well because it's all being assessed as farm ground. BioVision Ag Park is next. It was established in 2006. No bonds are outstanding. The Redevelopment Commission has, for many years now, elected to pass through all the eligible incremental assessed value. It's not a lot, but you're passing it through. But this area is one that is also going to be affected by the SEA 1 deductions. Then we have the Bell Perch allocation area. This was established in 2009 for Bell Perch. You paid off the 2013 bonds back in 2023, so you don't have any debt obligations. Last year, for Pay 25, the January 1, 2024 assessment of the buildings out there went down substantially, so you didn't collect any increment in 2025 from that allocation area. For January 1 of 2025, for taxes payable in 26, the evaluation of the building went back up. I think it's being activated again, and as I mentioned before, we've been seeing assessments go up in a lot of the allocation areas. So we're actually estimating that you're going to collect about $81,000 out in that area this year. So out on the edge of Albany. And then we have the 69 and 28 economic development area out in Gaston. That was established in 2017 and has a 25-year term if you issue any bonds. Again, this is one where no growth has ever happened. So you haven't collected any revenues. We're not estimating any revenues this year, and we're estimating that beginning next year, it's going to go negative as well. And then the final allocation area is the State Road 32 corridor, which was established back in 2023. That has had some growth. Last year, we estimated you'd collect about $20,000. You only collected $9,000. We understand there were some delinquencies out in that allocation area. We're estimating this year it's going to go up slightly to $22,000. But then this is another one that gets hit hard by the Senate Enrolled Act 1 deductions, and we're estimating that next year it's going to go negative as well. So you're getting revenues this year, but we don't expect that that's going to hold going forward. So I covered a lot of ground. We distilled a 180-page or so report into a 70-page presentation. I know there's a lot to digest. You got it on Tuesday. I'm happy to answer questions now, or as some of you know, I'm always happy to find a time to schedule a virtual discussion or pop back up here to dive into any of this more. As I said, we're closely monitoring how Senate Enrolled Act 1 is impacting your allocation areas. We're working on your next kind of check mark of Redevelopment Commission annual requirements for the April 15th deadline for the TIF management report. And then also we're going to plan on having the form of those pass-through letters to you for your May meeting, so you're not running up against a hard deadline in June. So working on all of those, and as always, really appreciate the engagement of John and Daniel. Amber, you've been great to work with in terms of tackling things, Commissioner Brand as well, and the auditor's office is always willing to answer our questions, and Julie has developed a great rapport with them because she's pinging them with emails constantly with questions, so we can get all the data to put together reports like this. So we really appreciate the opportunity.
Any questions?
A couple comments and some questions. So to summarize, there were 4 TIF allocation areas that were materially below what the projections were. That would have been Morrison Road, Nebo 2, Daleville, and State Road 32 East.
Sounds about right.
Okay. And those revenues were lower than expected due to defaults, lack of payments, Senate Enrolled Act number 1, appeals, just.
Yeah, I would ascribe it more to the first, like, delinquencies in property tax payments where either people didn't pay or they paid late. So we'll see if that gets caught up this year, or the appeals. Sometimes appeals get settled after the assessed values have all been finalized, after tax bills are finalized. And that doesn't always get captured in the data that we get from the auditor's office because of how they have to plug it into their tax system. The Senate Enrolled Act 1 impacts are starting this year.
We'll see that this year.
And that's accounted for in here, those new deductions.
Okay. To maximize the remaining lifespan, we have some that are going to expire here soon.
Yep.
What kind of strategy can we take to protect those areas? So if we burden those areas with debt, it would not necessarily extend the time of the TIF allocation area, but we could still capture the incremental financing if we put debt in place before it expires.
You can only have the debt outstanding for as long as the statutory term exists for the allocation areas. So if it expires in 2030, you can't issue debt now to try to keep it in existence beyond 2030. Once it reaches that expiration, it expires. Now, if you've built up a fund balance over the next 4 years and it expires in 2030 and you still have, $500,000, you can still be spending that money as if it's TIF. You're just not going to be capturing anything new after the statutory expiration. if you were trying, to issue debt, where you look at issuing debt is, and again, you've got the one area that really has that opportunity. You've got that combination of, Magna expires, sooner rather than later. You've got longer clocks for Midwest Metals, North Industria, and Industria Center. You could plug all of those together, and then the bond payments would be tailored to the recognition of the expiration of Magna, but that would get you dollars today that you could deploy immediately on projects rather than waiting on all the money to come in from the different pieces of the allocation area over the next 5, 10, 15 years. So that becomes the opportunity to maximize the bang for the buck today.
Understand. So when Magna expires, all that incremental funding then flows back to the county. If this body wanted to reestablish a TIF allocation area out there, that would be the new floor, and it would be only incremental beyond that.
Exactly. So you would only capture to the extent that Magna decided to do something new out there.
Gotcha.
And that happens. But yeah, the tax base of the county will see the benefit of that new assessed value coming in, and it's going to put that downward pressure on tax rates that I talked about earlier.
Okay. And we're compliant with all state reporting, no challenges or concerns?
None to my knowledge. No one has notified me of any. We've, like I said, we work closely with the auditor's office to get things uploaded into Gateway in a timely manner, meet other requirements.
Good.
Follow up to Commissioner Brandt's first question about the TIFs that are in the hole now. Would it ever make sense to, if we had an actual project in these areas that have never seen any development, they're long established TIFs with generating nothing, now they're in the hole, would it ever make sense if we did have a project to eliminate the existing TIF and create a new one and start over?
That there's something to be said for that, because that maximizes the potential capture from the new project. And really what you've got to balance is, and I would encourage you to do this as you're looking at all of these allocation areas that have had no development, is do you see there being a benefit as it stands now to keeping them in place? Because then that allows you to more quickly react to prospects. Or, are these areas that, at the time you thought were a little more primed for development, now you look at it and you're like, it's not really what we thought it was, and you could act to terminate those early, and then you could always reestablish if an opportunity came. That would ease some of the administrative burden that the auditor's office faces with those allocation areas. Less time that we have to spend helping with things. So it's something that's worth looking at for some of those areas that just haven't been generating any money.
And I agree, and I think that would be a true cost-benefit analysis study. How much does it cost to wind it down? And if we wanted to put one back in place, you have to pay all that money to get it back in place again. So what's the cost of administering those areas that aren't generating any incremental revenues on an annual basis versus the cost to wind it down or the cost to start it again?
Yep.
Clarifying these negative TIFs, we have to start from that negative point. So right now we're starting at 0. We would start below 0, whatever that number is, before we're capturing the TIF.
Exactly.
So it's not a cost to us. It's just we have a bigger gap to cover
Exactly.
before the TIF becomes positive.
So essentially, say the base was established at $1 million, and thanks to these deductions, you're now the net assessed value is $600,000. So you'd have to, from the new development, the first $400,000 of value from the new development would just go to fill in the base before you could start generating any incremental revenue. So you'd want to, if there was $1 million project out there, you'd only be capturing $600,000 because the first $400,000 of it were going to plug that gap.
So we really would need to understand the new base.
Exactly. And that becomes, and it's similar to, and you don't see this in county allocation areas as much, but we see it in cities and towns all the time, where they're doing downtowns. You establish it on a downtown parcel, and then they go and tear down the building. And so the value goes down, and you got to fill in the value of that building that got torn down before you have a viable project for revenues.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Moving on, number 7 on the agenda, resolution number 2026-003. Danielle.
Just one second. This was actually a catch by Gina. She was working on her spreadsheets from last year when we did 2025-017. The amount for the City of Muncie premium housing subdivision development, the resolution we did said 470,200, and it's actually supposed to be 407,200. So this is making that amendment to make it accurate with what the request was and what the pledge was. So Gina caught this, and we are just cleaning up our records.
Okay. Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Keesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Brand,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggerly,
Yes.
Ms. Green.
Yes. Number 8 on the agenda, resolution number 2026-004.
When you guys made a decision to suspend the guardrail replacement project, and even if you submit that out for new bids, we'll do a new resolution for that, but we wanted to clean up the record and rescind the resolution that actually pledged the money to that until such time as all new information is received and done. So this is actually rescinding resolution 2025-018, which pledged the funds to the guardrail replacement project. And that was a $49,800 pledge from Morrison Road.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Keesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Brand,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggerly,
Yes.
Ms. Green.
Yes.
CTEC has been notified.
Okay, thank you. Okay, number 9, Isaiah 117 House, third addendum. Danielle.
A couple of months ago when they came to you guys and asked for another extension of time and that was approved, we never did the formal addendum when I was looking back. So I went ahead and threw together this addendum, which gave them until June 30th, 2026 to complete what they were doing. So this is just making sure the record is complete when Gina and I go back and are looking for things. So this was already approved. It's just the addendum that goes with it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a quick question. Is anyone from Isaiah House here?
Yes.
Can you come up, please?
Mary Venata, location leader.
Hi, Mary. Thanks for coming up. Understand that there are some challenges with water and sewer right now. Is this enough time?
No,
Okay.
to be honest, that's why I came today, to give you an update.
Can you give us an update?
Yes, absolutely. So when we came back in December, the house is built, it's completed, it's been sitting there. There's a few things on the inside, just minor things that need updated before we can open. But we had a contractor, a boring contractor slated to install the water and sewer lines. And long story short, we've ordered all the supplies. We ordered them in December. He came back in February and said the water pipes were not the flexible water pipes that he needed. So we ordered an additional set of water pipes. And last week he was scheduled. There were some delays due to snow and weather and all of that. So finally last week he was slated to come and bore the water and sewer lines and backed out of the job. So I have been spending the last week contacting every person that I can possibly contact. I was at the IDA on Saturday, spoke with Jason Donetti with the Muncie Sanitary District and also the mayor, and have been given numerous contacts. We have had 2 or 3 people come out this week to give us quotes. There's somebody at the house now giving us another bid. One of the bids came in almost triple what the original bid was. We're 100% community funded. So it was over $65,000 to do the water and sewer lines, and the original quote was under 20. So we're at a position now where we're just trying to find some cost-effective bids. So we're still delayed. we're hoping the next few weeks. We were told probably it would take 10 to 12 days to get this all organized once we do approve the final bid for the contractor that we decide to go with. And then that could be, you know, another month before we get water and sewer into the house. And then we have to get all of our occupancy permits. We have to get the drive, we have to get the sidewalk, the stairs, all of that before we can even get the occupancy permit. So I'm not asking for an extension as of today, but honestly, if you're gonna, I mean, I don't see us opening by June 30th, to be fully transparent. We're hoping we will be extremely aggressive once we get the water and everything going, but this has just absolutely been out of our control and a challenge after a challenge. And we are doing everything that we possibly can to get this house open because our kids need it.
Is your general contractor still on the job?
Lee Anderson is still our general contractor. He has stepped back with time on site because he has poured over 2 years into this mission for us. He is still available for consultation, but he has stepped back from being on site.
So you're managing this on your own?
Well, we have support from our corporate office, and we have a general contractor with Isaiah 117 House. But yes, I am the local contact.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
This water and sewer is extending to like the main. Is it, so the water company's not doing that for you? They're requiring you to connect to them. Is that?
So this all stems back. The challenges have been from the get-go with the fire suppression system. So if it was just truly water and sewer lines, it would already been done. But we have the fire suppression system in the house, so we had to get special permits from the water company, and all of that didn't happen until December. So there was delays from the get-go from the state and the water company. So it's my understanding we're 100% responsible for the fire lines, period. And then we have to run the domestic water lines, and the water company's going to put a meter at the edge of the property where it connects like to the ditch. There's a ditch there. So it's our responsibility to run those domestic water lines to that meter. And then the sewer, when they built the mental health facility across the street, the sanitation department ran those lines for us to tap in, but it's over 600 feet of pipe they have to bore for the sewer. So we're responsible for all of that.
You said this would not be done by June 30th, so we would.
I mean, I don't want to 100% say that. I mean, I don't know. Like if we get water in the next couple of weeks, then we can get moving like quickly on the outside and getting stuff done. So there's always a possibility, and I don't want to say absolutely not, but it will be a stretch if we don't get water in the next few weeks. So we're hoping we were hoping for water, last month. So
We need to extend it out now.
Well, we have a motion and a second on the table. I only asked for discussion.
And even if you do extend it out now, I'd like to get this addendum on the record because this technically has already been approved at a prior meeting, and then I can do another one if somebody takes action on another extension.
And we are still serving children. We served 114 last year. We've already served over 20 children. We're doing everything that we can possibly do to control. We're training volunteers so that way when we're ready to go. So, I mean, we are trying to control what we can control. So everything that's in our power, we're moving forward with. We're not sitting still. We hired a new employee, Christy Close. She's in charge of our volunteers. She's been training nonstop. So we are really trying everything in our power to get this house going. It just is honestly out of our control with this water situation. I mean, it just has been very challenging.
Can we get roll call on the motion in the second, please?
Mr. Kiesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Brand,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggerly,
Yes.
Ms. Green.
Yes,
Thank you guys.
thank you.
I'll keep you updated.
Next on the agenda, 2026 bids for mowing.
I presented the list of parcels to Gina. She has taken the RFP for mowing bids from last year and put an update to that. Her and I went through Beacon, and we may have found one or two additional parcels that we need to look into for being mowed that we didn't have a complete list last year to go on, so we tried to find everything that was owned by the commission. So there are a couple Gina and I are gonna look into for clarification, but otherwise, I think we've got a pretty inclusive list of everything that the redevelopment commission owns, and it's pretty much ready to go out for an RFP.
Mowing season will start pretty quickly here, so we'll be ready to review in the April meeting.
Yeah, if you guys want to go ahead and approve this, and if we find there are two in question, and if we find that those don't need mowed, we'll just take them off before we submit this in the next few days.
So you have bids for the 2026 mowing season now? It was
No,
J. Crew
no,
before, right?
It was JQ. I'm just saying we're ready to put it out for an
Right.
RFP.
So you need action to put out the RFP? I don't think so.
I don't think you actually need to make a motion. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Go ahead
When
and
we
do
come
it,
back,
and if it
the-
needs changed.
Yeah, when we come back, we should have bids ready at the next meeting. That's what I'm saying.
Motion to table.
Second.
All in favor of tabling, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 11, bridge number 179, warranty deed.
Hello, Dean Thomas, county engineer. Just wanted to, so Bridge 179, we have a parcel that has been approved. Everything, the paperwork's all done, the deeds are all done, everything. Payment needs to be approved, and then in turn, the commissioners also need to sign off on it. So this meeting's before our commissioner meeting, but wanted to get approval for the payment. That way we can get this one out for letting on May 4th. So I'm just trying to work ahead and get everything wrapped up as quickly as possible. So this today would just be for the payment of $3,775 for parcel number 1.
This deed has already been sent to the commissioners. It's on their agenda for their next meeting so that they can sign off on the warranty deed. So this is actually just going to be a part of your claims.
This body has approved $615,610 to go towards this project. Of that, $530,090.54 remains outstanding. So we committed to funding this project.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Keesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Brand,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggerly,
Yes.
Ms. Green.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
thank you. Okay, moving on to tabled business. 12A is the 911 radio replacement request. Fred Cummings. Morning.
Morning. You have to take it off the table first.
You're right. I'll entertain a motion to take off the table.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Fred Cummings, 911 Director. So since our last meeting, there have been several questions. A request from Mr. Kiesling for the letter from Motorola. I think I've provided you with everything that's been asked of me so far. I did meet with the council president's here. One of the things that Commissioner Brand asked at the last meeting was basically a statement from the council that they cannot afford to pay this upfront cost of $728.5801. They have said that now. So I am requesting your approval to fund the initial cost of $720,858.01.
This is a purchase, not a lease.
This is a purchase, correct?
And I was at that council meeting, and I did ask for that statement. They made the statement. I still hold that an attempt to budget for it would be worthy. However, I also said that if there were remains out of the 911 budget each year, I would ask the council to consider putting that back in the TIF and repaying the TIF. And the direction from the council president to legal staff at that meeting was to check into the legalities of that. So I've since talked to all but one county council asking for support on that, and I pretty much have a split of in favor and not in favor, and 2 that are Switzerland. So. I hope the council does the right thing with my request, and I would make a motion to approve.
I'll second the approval, and we want to be careful how we take this. So let's just look at that.
Would you like to elaborate?
No, I just want to be careful how we pay for this.
Oh,
So
okay.
let's really look at those TIFs and make sure we,
Out of which allocation
yeah,
areas.
absolutely, yes.
Have the appropriate funding.
Yeah. I know it's there. Let's just,
Before I call roll on this, I just want to go on the record. I fully support 911 and the things that need to happen, but the way this was presented to us just leaves me feeling slightly uncomfortable. I don't like that. I feel like we're being forced into a decision. I don't like that. I feel that there were time constraints put on this that coincidentally also line up with the end of the first quarter. Motorola is in sales. They're trying to sell us something. I think that is awfully coincidental. I think the due date being the same day as the commissioners meeting is coincidental, and it feels like we are being forced into a decision for something that actually doesn't need done for another 4 years. And I don't like it. I don't really know how else to word that. A lot of it doesn't make sense to me. I said in my email to you yesterday, I'm concerned that we're going to be taking delivery of a product that we're not going to be using for 3 years. I don't think anybody here would go out and buy a new iPhone and let it sit in the box before they opened it for 3 years. And I have concerns about that. Is the usability quality still going to be up to standards when we take delivery of something that isn't going to be used or installed? And I don't like the rush. And I feel like we're losing, like Mr. Kiesling mentioned in a prior meeting, I feel like we're losing use of the product that we currently have. And I don't like feeling like as a commission, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place and have to make a decision.
Only question I have is on the pricing summary. Fred, there's like a spreadsheet put together we have that says Access Promotion states must be deliverable by 3/27/26 for a $420,000 discount, which I believe was part of the driver for this. It also says the equipment, there's an asterisk that said equipment must be deliverable by 3/27, but it doesn't provide a year. So is this equipment going to go in place this year? Then is that
Some of the equipment will start shipping on by 3/27, and that's like the screens for the actual stuff. It's not so much the software and the hardware. It's the standard equipment is what I call it. That's what I tried to explain in the email yesterday. There's computer screens and stuff like that attach to this radio system that will get shipped. A lot of the radio systems are different than an iPhone, like you said, right? An iPhone is out of the box and you can use it. This is something that takes a long time to engineer, system integrate, get up and running. It's not like a typical widget or iPhone or even computer. It's completely different. I tried to get Motorola to explain that in the letter that Mr. Kiesling asked for, and I understand your time crunch, but if we approve it today, it doesn't get up and running until when it says, and if we wait 2 years, then we're past the 2030 at that point. So I understand your concerns, but I think if you truly understand the way radio systems work, this is not uncommon.
I think what you're saying, we're placing the order, but this still has to be procured, still has to be manufactured, still has to be designed, and there's a time with that.
Correct.
And that's been much of our conversation is
Yes.
first of all, thank you for getting a deadline for Motorola. I think that helps. But also, they're trying to manage not manufacturing a bunch of these at once. To Commissioner Henry's point several meetings ago, it is a gun to the head. We don't have another option. We are trying to make the most of the situation we can and support public safety. I don't have any other questions.
Is there any language that we can execute that will require Motorola to have this done by, I mean, the letter was pretty loosely worded, 2028 or early 29. Depending on who you're talking to, early 29 could be as late as April, May of 2029. Is there anything we can do to require installation?
No, basically how it works is the sooner the contract gets approved, the sooner we get put into the schedule. That's their estimate of where we're gonna be in the schedule based on system technologists and integrators and everything else. Like I spoke to Mr. Kiesling about, once this contract is signed, we could actually technically bump up a few months in the schedule, depending on how other systems get integrated. There's other people in line right now. I don't know that you'll get them to commit to a drop dead date, but I will stand here and tell you that based on my experience with Motorola, they're pretty close on their timeline. So it will, my personal belief, as I told Mr. Kiesling, is that this will be done before the end of 2028. I think they give themselves a little leeway by saying into 2029, but I'm pretty confident that it will be done by the end of 2028.
Could then be equipment manufactured in 2028.
Right.
So we're not losing the life that we originally
No.
thought, and I appreciate the time and diligence on that front.
Questions? Mr. Wiggerly, were you going to say something?
I was taught a long time ago I should never play poker because I can be read pretty quick. I'm supportive of all the comments made. Fred, I appreciate your hard work on this. I, like everybody else on this body, do not like being put or painted in a corner. And that causes me to take a very negative perspective. So I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and I will comply with whatever this body wants to do. And I hope I never meet Jay Burla. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Kiesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Brand,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggerly,
Yes.
Ms. Green.
Unfortunately, I am no on this simply because of the comments I made earlier.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Moving on, 12B, on table business, Park 1, second entrance bids.
Motion to remove from the table.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good morning.
Jamie Stutzel, American Structure Point Project Manager for Park One. After the bids were open last month, we reviewed those bids, certified the bids, and believe that 3D is the most responsive low bidder and recommend them for award for this project.
Questions?
Again, this is below the previous
This is
year's
below bid. This was approximately $54,000 lower than the engineer's estimate, and it was significantly lower than the second bid.
Any material changes between?
No,
The original.
they were fairly similar in what they had. I think the biggest things were the other bidder just had some items that were higher, which is not unusual.
We have the funding now too. That was a big concern on why we delayed it in the first place. We just heard there's 1.9 million in Park One, and that was one of the original ideas. We have the sale of the rail spur to SRM Concrete, and as well as a couple of other allocation areas out there. So we do have the money to pay for this now.
I make a motion to approve the 3D company bid.
Second.
Mr. Keys.
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Keesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Brand,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes,
Mr. Wiggerly,
Yes.
Ms. Green.
Yes.
and that's $2,747,000
Yes.
for the record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Moving on to invoices. Do we have any questions on the invoices?
No questions. Total $113,891.87.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Keesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Brand,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes,
Mr. Wiggerly,
Yes.
Ms. Green.
Yes. Okay, no bond or bot invoices. Public comment.
Good morning again. Bill Walters, I am representing the Regional Wastewater District and ECI at the same time. I would like to give you an update, and I have an ask. Update, Westdale project. We have been working for the last 6 months. As some of you are familiar with the sanitation project out there of eliminating the wastewater treatment plant, sending the flow to Gaston. I know we worked on it a couple of times. You have a whole new superintendent, some new board members, and we have updated the records. We have a project going to SRF. It is at $5,022,500. Like I said, this team has been a little bit different. They did a bond at the school, so we have $500,000 going to this. It is the same engineer, Commonwealth, that works with Gaston. You guys have been gracious in the past, and you have pledged money to this project. I'm here on behalf of the school, and that again, that this one I think is going to move forward. But our problem, or the issue I have with it, is we at $5 million SRF to get scored good, you got to have about 20% in the game. So we have a $500,000 as of right now on a $5,022,000 project. My ask is that you would consider something up to that 500,000 mark that we had before. There, I know it is the third time, and it's been 4 years, but we are closer than we have ever been, and I have had a commitment from the superintendent this project is going to move forward. We need to get that treatment plant out of there. There's 1,000 kids that are affected by this treatment plant next to the school. It's a can that's been kicked down the road for so many years, it's not funny. I would appreciate any and all support. We've got until the end of March 31st when our SRF loan goes in. So I made a commitment to the superintendent and that I would dig in every corner to find what I can. We've also got an ask in to Todd Young's office. We're reaching out to Victoria's. There is earmarks going on. There's a lot for infrastructure. We are putting one in for this, hopefully for 1.3 million. We're not greedy and not asking for all of it. We just want a little piece to help out and get the school thing done. So I would entertain asking I would answer any questions, and I would ask that you would obtain some, or look to fund some portion of that 500K that is left.
Bill, and I thank you. You have been extremely diligent on this project.
This has been a long one.
You have worked extraordinarily hard on this. And at the end of the day, there's a school with a unique sewer system, and I think that's the best way to put it. That's not sustainable.
No.
And how close does this get us to the interchange? This is done.
This gets us halfway home.
Gets us halfway.
You would, and I knew this question was going to come up. We had discussions in this in round 2 of this, that piping would be set up to make that connection to 28. That is 6-inch force main. Live well is at the right capacity. The only thing that would have to be changed if we move forward sometime down the road would be the pumps to force it down. Other than that, capacity is at Gaston. Gaston is a player in this. They're going to take the flow. Regional Wastewater District will take over operation and maintenance of the lines. It would fall under the commissioner's jurisdiction.
I want to add one thing too. The different places to get funding have also been looked at. So Gaston has been talked to in length. They don't have any additional funds that they can contribute to this other than taking the flow. So Bill coming here is at the end of the list. He's looked everywhere to try to help Westdale. So I just wanted you to know this isn't the first place he's stopping. This is one of the last places he's stopping.
Well, this is the closest we've ever been for this project.
Agreed.
We've talked about, Interstate 69 and State 28 forever, ever since I've been commissioner. And the problem at that intersection is there are no utilities out there. I kind of think that's what the Redevelopment Commission is for, is to try to make these places more appealing to business. And I think this is a time to do this, my opinion. I mean, it's not only we've dealt with Westdale for a long time and their sanitary sewer issues, and not only does it take care of that issue, but also helps with 2869.
And
The
I will
commissioner's
say-
office is writing a letter of support for
I'm
this
sorry?
project. The commissioner's office is writing a letter of
Correct.
support for this project to our U.S. legislators,
Yep.
for you, the U.S. Senate. Yeah.
I do want to say this team is different. Okay, I know the first two, and some of you have been on this board for a while and know this is my first time in front of you. But I will say this superintendent is awesome. I mean, he is staying in contact. He is moving things through. He's working with his board. He's having conversations, things that Danielle I think can attest. We did not have the first two times around. There was gates and doors. There's not here. There's a group working together to get this accomplished.
What's the timing of this?
The SRF loan goes in on the 31st, so scoring would start after that. That's why she said this. This was
Are you saying you need this commitment from us before the 31st?
that you would be committed. Yes and no. Understand? I know that sounds two-sided, Bill. Even though you're committing today, this project would not go to construction until 2027.
I wasn't
So
asking about the construction timeline. I'm more,
It'd be a commitment to whatever you wanted to do, so that I can put with the letter so they would see that there is a skin in the game. And just like the federal, I'm trying to get to that 20%, $1 million.
And that impacts the scoring on this
Yes,
federal.
yeah, the scoring will start right after March 31st. Whatever we have to put in with the letters of commitment as far as what we have funding wise on our end versus what we're applying for them for funding.
I know most of us are familiar with this project. I believe all of us, at least sitting on this board, are, but for the record and for those watching, I just have to ask, Bill, why are you coming up at public comment, not putting it on the agenda?
Because I didn't have everything put together and the number to bring to you. We were still meeting with the school. We just had one at the end of February, and we were rushed. I've had an SBOA audit and quarterlies that went in. I apologize. There's only so much on the plate. Those things had deadlines to it, and this one had a little longer deadline, but it didn't coincide with yours. I apologize. I would rather have had it on your agenda and had a packet in front of you, but I also knew that most of you knew, and I didn't want to miss the opportunity on the scoring. I don't very seldom run in here and just ask for something by any
I know,
means.
which is
We go
why I
through it.
asked.
But this is something with the scoring. I'm trying to take advantage of every step that I can get. And SRF, some of you don't remember, even though we go in for the scoring, we may have the possibility at 25, 50, or 75% grant forgiveness on this project for this school. So I'm trying to get that number as high as I possibly can before we turn it over to SRF on March 31st.
I appreciate you coming in after exhausting every opportunity. To Commissioner Henry's point, we're never going to grow that interchange without this project done. I think probably the question is more which funds can we use towards it.
I think there's a couple different options there.
Perfect.
Plenty of opportunity. I think, something like this could be spread out amongst 10 different TIF allocation areas if we so chose.
I would make a motion that we approve the request for the pledge of $500,000.
Second.
Roll call, please. Mr. Kiesling.
Yes.
Commissioner Brandt.
Yes.
Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Mr. Regularly.
Yes.
Ms. Green.
Yes, but
Thank
put
you
it on
very-
the agenda next time, Bill.
I will. Thank you very much. I'm sure Andy is very happy. I will give him the news. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, Public comment, Mr. Yinzer, it's on the list.
Yes, Madam Chairman. Rick Yenser, newsman, author. Found this very interesting today. Not only do you have plenty of money, you're being awful generous with money, but I want to put in context to the people who pay for this operation what TIP is. Tax increment financing is a method to gain money through new business and industry and put it in a special fund to help create jobs. So what have we seen here today? Some infrastructure for public education, and also trying to find out what the next step is for some of these TIFs that are no more than ag land that have been sitting around for years. Basically, we are already finding some developers, some holding companies are buying up land around here for something I heard last week at the mayor's talk. Oh, and I forgot the mayor doesn't do TIP anymore. And that TIP, even if there wasn't TIP, that would go into government and schools, and maybe they could pay for themselves, because $25 million a year goes to the county, and of course a piece to Daleville for development purposes. But let's go back to what we're going to see in the future, and that's data centers. I think there was mention at the mayor's talk the other day, the data centers are coming, and we found property already being bought up. I get the feeling, given the sewer job that you just approved out there at 28 and 69, because they don't have utilities out there, that's why nothing gets built, that those areas may be the source of new data centers, because I know from the utility, they built a couple new transformer stations out there and expanded electrical service, not just for Park 1, but for the rest of that area. So again, I hope we see more openness of what you're going to do with data centers, because we didn't see it a couple of years ago. When a Chinese-based data center dropped into Yorktown, there was no mention, no reporting, no information. And they're still out there, and of course they had a bigger one down in Marion, I think they've sold, but it's coming, and I think you need to tell the people, because I don't want to sit around here and have to cover another 5 years of just say no, like you have to renewable energy. So good luck.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Okay, comments from the commission? Yes?
Yep. So just wanted to give a quick summary of our 2025 total spend by category as it relates to tax increment financing. So my first comment is everything was ag land at one time. So everything has sprung up out of ag land, but there's a misconception out there that this body didn't spend as much money as in the past. We didn't do as much work, and it didn't go to the right things. And the chart I have in front of me tells quite a different story. So 36% went to debt service and bonds, 30% went to infrastructure, 6%, only 6% of that went to not-for-profits and schools, but some of that was for infrastructure at those schools. 16% went to county entity support, 4% went to bridges, and 7% went to services, 1% went to miscellaneous. So this tells quite a different story than the perception that's out there. In 2020, went back 5 years, the largest amount that was obligated by this body, a little over $10 million. But since then, our 2025 commitments were pretty much in line with what was done. So in 2021, 2.6 million, 2022, 1.58 million, 2023, 1.7 million, 2024, 4.8 million. That's another up year. But last year in 2025, 2.1 million. So right in line with 3 of the last 5 years and more than 2 of the last 5 years. So I wanted to provide that update. I appreciate very much what Gene has given us every month, this outstanding project obligations, and this will continue to be updated in real time, right? So it stays up to date. At the last meeting, I brought up a request from the town of Eaton. they have asked us to transfer the county's Ag Park TIF district over to them. I brought it up. Then we have a town hall, our first town hall, our commissioner's first town hall of 2026 is tonight in Eaton at the town hall. And I'm certain that this will come up because I hope and expect that some of the folks from the Eaton Town Council will be in the meeting. But I want to make an observation to this body that we already passed through all the revenues from that TIF allocation area to that local area. So I'm not sure that handing this over to them would benefit them. This body also in 2024 gave the remaining funds for Daleville over to Daleville, and that was 100%. That has now been renegotiated to where 80% of that goes to Daleville, 20% of it stays with this body. Side note, you just heard reported by Baker Tilly, Mr. Eckerly, that Daleville is one of the areas that we could pay off early. Now this body's lost its ability to pay it off early because those monies, the majority of that money goes to Daleville. However, there's a renegotiated situation. I was in favor of it. 20% stays with this body, 80% goes to what I consider a very capable town council and redevelopment commission in Daleville, and both have skin in the game. So we're going to get asked probably tonight about, is this body interested in doing a similar thing with the Eaton Town Board on the Ag Park, the biopark out there. Any comments, questions?
I have no interest.
Just wait till you guys hear more from your town hall.
Okay. All right. The Daleville property, we said at the last meeting that we were going to go out and get one appraisal, and that once we had that appraisal, we would share it and ask somebody that was interested if they would do the other appraisal. Is there an update on that appraisal?
Yes, so Tracy and I each requested a quote for an appraisal. We got them back. They were about the same. One was slightly less than the other. So we have asked them to pursue with the appraisal, the first one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And then I may have heard earlier in this meeting that the corrective action for the Fountain Square TIF allocation area funding, we had some issues with the bank and internal last year. Has this application now, it's all taken care of?
The auditor's office got back to me yesterday. I just want to review it and review some of the details. I hope to have that sent along to Old National today.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's important. This is one of the corrective actions to prevent that from happening again in the future. There was also something in our packet, but it wasn't on our agenda. Clearline USA Incorporated, Employment and Wage Information Annual Report for 2025. Basically, it looks like their annual reported year ending December 31st, 2025, full-time employees 35, full-time employee wages $23.12. So it looks like they submitted this to us to comply with whatever annual reporting requirements there were. This was in my packet.
Is that
Okay.
correct? That's why it was submitted.
Just an update for informational purposes.
Okay. So it says Clearline processed approximately 12 million pounds of recycled tires in 2025. Thank you. And
There was also, we also had some information, I think Tracy had sent some information over about Clearline. Potential
IBM
issues.
environment.
Yeah. Those were all, yes,
They're
yes.
Yeah. I think it was a reporting classification issue of rubber crumb received versus how it was called out on the bill of lading and
That
the
is
shipping
correct.
documents.
Yes.
And then Clearline used approximately 450,000 pounds of polyurethane binder in 2025. So appreciate them being here.
Absolutely.
That's all for me.
Any other comments? Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.